Hey everyone, welcome to another print-on-demand video bent on helping you to reach more success with your print-on-demand business. For those of you who have been following my posts in the community feed, you will know that my wife recently underwent a medical intervention. And while she was discharged, she developed some complications over the weekend, which landed her back in hospital. Life has been a balancing act, as I'm sure you can imagine, these past few days, but I wanted to make sure that I found some time to publish a video this week. It's a little different from the usual videos, as I'll just be doing a voiceover whilst I show you 4 easy-to-create t-shirt text designs for St. Patrick's Day using Canva. And the best thing about these designs is that the methods shown can be easily utilized for any other holiday, event, or niche. And they're not time-consuming at all, so you can really churn out a lot of great designs for your e-commerce store. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to head over to ChatGPT in order to ask it for a little bit of help in terms of coming up with some ideas for St. Patrick's Day. And here, as you can see, I typed in the following prompt. I want to create some new t-shirt designs for St. Patrick's Day. I want a mix of one-word typography designs, funny one-liner designs, and others with a mix of text and graphic. Can you give me 20 options to consider? ChatGPT said, certainly. Here are 20 St. Patrick's Day t-shirt designs for you. And as you can see here, we've got a list of a number of options that we could choose in order to create designs for. Then I asked it if you could come up with 20 more, and sure enough, it provided me with these extra 20, and now I had a great mix of different things to choose from, and I chose the first one, Irish Yoga Downward Stout, because I obviously wanted to cross-stitch it between, yoga and St. Patrick's Day. So now that I had that done, it was time to head over to Leonardo.ai to create an image to help me, enhance the design. And as you can see here, this was the prompt that I used. And I also copied in a few negative prompts here to make sure that I would get the best possible image. And after waiting for a few seconds for Leonardo to do its magic, it gave me these 2 particular images. You'll notice that I also created, or rather that the parameters were set to 1024 by 1024. And I chose the first one here that you can see because of the fact of the pose that he's holding and the fact that he's holding a mug of beer in his hands. So I downloaded the image, and the next thing I wanted to do was to obviously upscale it. And to upscale it, I enjoy using create.pixelcut.ai/upscaler. I'll leave the link in the description box down below. And it's just simply a matter of uploading the image as you see me doing here. And then 2x is what's offered for the free version, which was more than enough. I clicked on download, and now I had an upscaled image for me to use. So now I was off to Canva, and the first thing that I did was I created a heading, and obviously I needed to increase the size so that we could see what we were working with, and then it was just a matter of starting to input the text. So as you can see here, I typed in the text, Irish Yoga, and began increasing the size of it. Now it was time to select an appropriate font. So basically I clicked on the font handle, and if you've been following my channel, you know that I've really gotten into using the Handleson font. And as you see here, as I click on them, it gives you an idea of what the font is going to look like depending on which of the ones to choose. Handleson 6 is my favorite one to use because it has a bit of a grunge atmosphere to as well, a grunge appearance. So it's just a question of increasing the size. Okay, now the next thing what I need to do was to select a shape, okay, or you could hit R on the keyboard, and I wanted to change the color to black. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to place it at the beginning of the text, increase it to cover the entire text, and then just decrease from the top and the bottom. Basically, I want to get like a bar going across the middle of the phrase. Now this is where we're going to put in the further text. So what we do is we want to change the color to white, and you might have to actually change its position to bring it forward. As you can see here, I clicked on layers, show layers, and then just clicked and dragged the white bar up to the top. And now what I wanted to do was copy back from ChatGPT Downward Stout. And once I have it copied, Control-C or Command-C, as you can see here, we head back to Canva, and then choosing heading again. Obviously increasing the size of the font. I could then just move it out of the way, double click on it, and then just paste Downward Stout. That was just a question of obviously choosing an appropriate font. In this particular case, I chose Glacial Indifference. As you can see here, it was a nice skinny font that would really work well and stand out against the Handleson font. I zoomed in, and what I wanted to do now, I thought it would be a good idea to bold the font just for it to stand out a little bit more. And then what we're going to do is place it accordingly. Obviously, sometimes you just have to eyeball it in order to see the best way forward. And then what I wanted to do was increase the spacing between the letters, just to sort of spread it out a little bit. Not entirely, because it would be too difficult to read, but obviously you want to eyeball it to what you feel is the best mix in terms of letter spacing. And I think that worked really well. Now it's just a question of uploading the image and then click on Edit Photo and remove the background. Because I'm using the paid version of Canva, this facility is open to me. If you don't, you can go to BG Remover and then obviously do the same thing here and download it as a PNG. So after I showed the layers, it was just a question of dragging the image down to the bottom. We're going to zoom out a little bit. And now I'm just going to increase the size of the image, obviously, to make it fit really nice. Again, you can size it to whatever size you want based on your preference. And then just a question of obviously positioning it on the canvas size. Now, we want to move the text down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Irish Yoga, the white bar, and obviously Downward Stout. We're going to group them together. And then I'm just going to start dragging it down. And again, it's just a question of placing it where you feel it, it should be placed, where you feel it balanced and whatnot. Okay, so we're going to ungroup them now. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I want to start inverting all of the text and the colors, because I want this design to be placed on a black t-shirt. So as you can see here, I'm just clicking on every aspect of this particular design, including the canvas, changing it to its opposite. And you can see it really stands out nicely. Again, I want to, grab those three segments of the design and drag them down more over the knee and the leg area of the leprechaun, just for it to stand out a little bit. Obviously, it makes it a lot more balanced, at least in my opinion. Let me know in the comment section down below if you agree or disagree, where would you have placed it. But as you can see here now, we have the image. Now I thought, let me get rid of the boldness of the Downward Stout just to see how it was going to look. And I increased the size of the bar, and then obviously increase the size of Irish Yoga. Again, it's all up to preference, depending on your design, what image you are working with. But you can really see the versatility of Canva to allow you to do these different things. It's really easy to use, and then it's just a question of increasing the length of the black bar after I ungrouped them. And then once that happened, basically we had the design all set and ready. Okay, so the next design is going to be a text-based design. So as you can see here, I just basically typed in the word shenanigans after choosing the heading. And now it was basically just a question of resizing it. But obviously I was going to change the font because this font really didn't work for me. So I typed in the word bold in order to see what kind of bold fonts Canva would provide for me. And scrolling down, I was attracted to this one, Cubo Nero. And I really thought that the font really worked well for this particular design. So it was just a question of increasing the size and placing the text. This was going to be sort of like the center focus point on the canvas size. And then the next thing that I wanted to do was basically to decrease the transparency of this particular font just slightly. So I clicked on the transparency icon. I brought it down to about 80. And now what I did was I started duplicating it. As you can see here, I just dragged it up and sort of, again, I was just eyeballing it. I wanted to bring it up slightly. And then obviously it was a question of decreasing the transparency of this particular layer. So again, I brought it down all the way to about 20. And then I made another copy of it after placing it accordingly, and then dragged it down to the bottom. So as you can see, the design was already starting to fill out quite nicely, but I wanted to create yet a third layer of this particular font. So it was then just a question of making another copy of each of the slightly, transparent fonts, dragged it back up, again, placed it accordingly, and dragged down the transparency to about 10. So we get this really nice faded effect. Then I duplicated that layer and then brought it down to the bottom. Again, obviously I had to make sure that the layers were all appropriately placed. And then obviously I dragged it down and placed it accordingly. So again, I wanted to make sure it was in the back to have all of the layers appropriately placed. And effectively, you could stop right there if you wanted to. And then once you're happy with it, it's a question of adding some color. As you can see here, I enjoy using schemecolor.com in order to help me with my color palettes. So what I did was I typed in St. Patrick's Day in order to see what color palettes this website would give me. And as you can see here, the first one really gave me a nice assortment of colors, which are typically associated with, St. Patrick's Day. So I clicked on it, and once you scroll down, you can then obtain the hex codes from obviously the description they give you. So I copied the first one, which is the green, clicked on the appropriate layer, and then just effectively changed the color as you can see here. Then I went obviously for the banana yellow, and that was going to be obviously on the layers just, closest to the main one. As you can see here, I'm changing the colors. And then finally, I went with Mikado yellow, copied the hex code, and then effectively did the same thing with each of the really faded layers. And there you go. We had another text-based design that obviously you can churn out and create a lot more variations of if you so wish. Okay, so the third design is going to be a graphic and text-based design. So I clicked on elements and typed in 4-leaf clover and basically selected one of the graphics which appealed to me. As you can see, it was this particular 4-leaf clover, and then it was just a question of resizing it. Now, after I resized it, obviously it was time to put in some text. We increased the size of it, and basically I dragged it up to the top. And in this particular case, I was going to use, obviously, Lucky Charm. I chose Balloon Extra Bold because it was a nice bold font, and obviously in caps. We changed the font size to a real high one of about 800, and then it was just a question of placing it and again, resizing accordingly. I gave it a bit of a curve to roughly about 90. And then after placing all of the components, I made a duplicate of it and then just basically changed Lucky to Charm. Obviously clicked on the effects and obviously put a minus in the curve so that it would give me the same type of curve, obviously just the opposite. And then I changed the colors of the font to white and reduced the transparency to about 50. Again, changing the color from black to white. Now, once I was done, I downloaded this particular image. And once it was downloaded, I created another canvas and then brought the downloaded image back onto the canvas, centered it, and then edit the photo by removing the background. Okay, so once that was done, it was time to do a bit of adjustments. So in terms of the adjustments for this particular image, I just increased the contrast. I wanted to make it really punchy, so I brought it about 86, increased the brightness to about 45, 46, and then it was a question of resizing to fit the canvas. Once I did that, I dragged the top and the bottom margins down. Okay, once I resized it, I went back to the previous version and then grouped the text together, copied them, and then pasted them back onto Canvas 4, as you can see here. I auto-grouped them so that I would be able to tweak them accordingly. Obviously, I brought the transparency back up to 100, and then changed the color of the text to green, the same green as in the Shamrock. Then as you can see here, I tweaked it around just so that obviously it would fit over the version, or rather the layer underneath, because that's important to do so. Doesn't have to be precise, just as close as you can get it. Okay, as you can see here, that worked really well. Then I sent them backwards in terms of the layer so that I could get this duotone effect with Lucky and Charm. And again, you can do it with any color that you wanted. If you wanted to make it white, you could do so. Again, you want to edit the photo, then we change the color to black so that we would see how it would look on a black t-shirt. And then I thought it would be a great idea, after obviously placing all of the layers accordingly, to give the, the text a little bit of a yellow, a punchier effect. I thought then, it would look a lot better this way. As you can see, it stands out a lot more than the green. Again, you just want to play around with it. And I thought it would be a cool idea to stick an illustration, a graphic of some sort, in the middle of the clover in order to fill it in. And then it was just a matter of choosing an appropriate illustration of a shamrock hat and obviously placing it in the middle, as you can see here. Okay, so the next design was going to be a text and graphic design too as well. So what we wanted to do was obviously choose a heading. Our canvas was black already, so there was no need to change it. I brought it up to 200, and then obviously it was, time to select the font. I chose Henderson 6 again. As many of you know, that's my favorite font to use at the moment. And it was just a question of increasing the size. And then we obviously typed in the following: Irish. Now, once I had it placed at the top, I made a duplicate of it after resizing it. I wanted it to be nice and big and punchy. So now I duplicated it, dragged it down, and what we wanted to do was to obviously resize it. I brought it down to about 500 and then retyped Irish to by blood, because the idea was going to be Irish by blood, American by beer. I duplicated Irish and then typed in the word American, and then obviously we had to bring it down in size to fit in one line. And then I duplicated by blood, and obviously after placing it in the bottom here, it was time to change blood to beer. I dragged down American after resizing it. I want it to be as large as I can. Again, there's no right or wrong. You can make it any size that you want, okay? And then now it was just a question of finding an image to fit into that. So I typed in leprechaun hat. And then basically I scrolled down after looking in. As you can see here, we had this leprechaun here. We're sort of with his fingers in the front, which I thought would work really great in placing the fingers over American, over the word American. So it's just a question of resizing it. Now, in terms of layering, it was in the beginning, but as you can see, the bottom of the image has now lined up with the top of American. That was just a question of bringing that layer to the front and then placing it more towards the center so that it would obviously look balanced. So I hope you learned something new from these designs that I walked you through in this video. Give them a try and let me know which of these 5 resonated the most with you in the comment section down below. Now, I'd like to invite you to click on the video thumbnail that just appeared on your screen now. Let's continue our journey towards more print-on-demand success. Thanks for watching. I'll see you there.